y'all? Welcome back to my channel. I am Sunny Brooks, and for those that are new here, welcome. While you're here, browse around, find a video that you like, watch some playlists, and also don't forget to leave any questions, comments, or concerns at the bottom of the videos, because I'll be sure to talk with you and chat with you and answer any questions that you have. For those that are not new, hey family. So y'all, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, the notification bell, and give my videos thumbs up. Today's video is going to be different. I have never done a story time, but I'm doing a story time today, y'all. Like, I'm doing a story time. I normally do story times or give more personal information about me on my podcast, Sunny Days. So, like, I answer the journal topics there, so people really get to hear different things about me. I tell stories about my upbringing, stuff like that. So I never did this on YouTube before, so I decided to do a story time. And today's story time is going to be about my Shroom experiences. I'm not about to go into details about the benefits and all that stuff about shrooms. You can Google it, figure it out, I don't know. But I have done shrooms on multiple occasions, so I'm going to tell you about 3 times where I actually kind of had a shroom trip, right? Where I did shrooms and had a trip and had some awakening. So I'm not only just telling you the story time so it can like, oh, just listen to my story time, but I'm also going to tell you some takeaways I had for each story. So, the first time I did shrooms was with my wife, and we were in, I'm not going to tell you where we were, but we were at a park outside. And I think this was not the lowest dose I have ever done, but this was a lower dose. But we were at a park, and that time we just ate them. Like, we didn't mix them in anything or nothing. And when I tell you, I just was like, oh, I gotta mix this in something, because it was not tasty. I just was chewing it, and it tastes like dirt and shrooms and tree bark. Like, that's what it tastes like. But I was chewing them, and then it was like, okay, nothing's happening. I feel a little like more alert, but I didn't feel how people would say. So I'm like, let me eat some more. Let me eat some more. And we were by a creek. Yeah, I would say it's a creek and rocks, like a little nice romantic type of park situation. And I just remember walking through the creek. We were sitting down at first, and I just got up and I was like, ooh, the water just seems really amazing. It seems really amazing. So I went walking through the water, and I was just standing on the rocks, just standing there like this, as the sun, like, I feel like the sun was recharging me, and I was like getting all this information and all this like DNA code activation from the sun. And I was just being present, and I was just like playing with the colors in my mind, because they were like little colors and stuff. And I was just walking along the creek. This was a very mellow shroom trip. Like, I was outside, so I was very interested in the things that was around me. I was interested in the trees and the water and the rocks. I was just very in the moment, very present. It was a very beautiful, just experience. I took some time and meditated in the grass, and I kind of explained that one. Like, when I closed my eyes and opened them again, I felt like how the color revealed itself in The Wizard of Oz, when it went from like black and white to color. That's how it kind of went. Because the colors were like pastel. They wasn't bright, vibrant. They were just like very, I'm like, ooh, this looks new. This looks like in the 1900s sometime, because it just looked very pastel-y. That trip was very beautiful. I just was like in La La Land. And I have this paper just because I took some notes. So one of the things I took away from that, kind of my spiritual parts that I took away, was appreciate the beauty around me in any moment. And that was something I was taking for granted at that time. Like, I would just be going so fast and moving right along and just doing, going. But in that moment, I learned and also appreciated everything around me without worrying about anything outside of that moment. So just appreciating the beauty. I was just like in love with the trees. I was in love with the water. I was in love with the sky. I was just in awe. It was like I was falling in love with each item. Like I was just experiencing these items for the first time. So I was just like, wow, look at the tree. It's breathing. It's moving so slowly and so lusciously. Like, wow, the water looks amazing. It looks hydrating. Like, I was just in love and in awe with all of these things around me. And that specific trip just helped me to kind of open my eyes, to literally open my eyes to the present moment. Don't worry about what I didn't do or what I could be doing or where else I could be doing or where else I could be and things like that. Just really be here and appreciate the beauty around me in any given moment. That was something that I learned in that moment. And one of I would say the biggest, because I'm only going over two for this one. The other biggest takeaway, I would probably say the biggest one, was to slow down. Because I was just like, I'm moving so slow and I just love this feeling. Like, I don't ever move this slow. Like, why don't I ever move this slow if I love this? And I just kind of went down a rabbit hole with that. I was just like, wow, like maybe I should slow down some more often. And I was enjoying how slow I was moving. I was enjoying how in the moment, how I was just in tune and present. And I was not rushing or like moving so fast. And I feel like it is city energy. That's what I call it. It's the city energy because I'm from Miami. I live in Miami. So I'm just always like, what's next? I could be brushing my teeth and I just like I'm going fast because I'm like, I have to be intentional. So it's like, hold on, why are you moving so fast? Slow down. So I learned that from that moment. Like in moments now, I'll be moving fast. I'm like, why? I'm not in a rush. I don't have anywhere to be. I'm not like pressed for time, but I'm just moving fast. So I'm now able to just say, hold on, wait, slow down. And that moment I was able to take that away from that moment. That was the first trip. Then the second trip, this is when things started getting loose, okay? Because that one, I just experienced pure bliss. That first one, I experienced pure bliss, just pure bliss. That's why I say pure beauty, pure bliss. Just, I felt amazing. Now, this other trip, I was at home. I was with TJ also, but I was at home, and this time I decided to make a smoothie. So I made a like mango smoothie and stuff, but I put the shrooms in the smoothie. So it did alter the taste of the smoothie, but it was so much better than just eating them, okay? It was so much better. I don't know how much I took, but I'm sure it was a couple grams. And listen, we have this plant. This is how I knew that I was started to trip, like I was starting to climb. We have this plant in our house. It's a corn plant, I believe. And it casts a shadow, but it started to look like a Jamaican man dancing. So in the shadow, all you see is it kind of like moving like that. Like it's like to a reggae song, like a slow reggae song. But it looks like he has like big locks. And me and TJ always joke and we say that's the reggae man, like in the shadow. But he was dancing and I'm like, am I tripping? I'm like, babe, you see the shadow? She like, yeah, I see it. It's like a reggae man. I'm like, okay, I thought so too. So I was like, oh snap, this is gonna be different than last time. And I was like, well, I feel good. And then I got up. I was like, wait, I feel nauseous. I feel like I gotta throw up. And TJ's like, no, you don't. Just stop focusing on that. I'm like, and then she'll have a conversation with me. I forget that I even have to throw up. And then she'd be like, see, I told you, the more you focus on it, you'll feel like you have to throw up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you said throw up. I gotta throw up. She's like, no, you don't. It's all in your head. It's all in your mind. Calm down. But I'm like, okay, I must be at the peak because I feel good. I feel like last time. Little did I know. This was not the peak. It was not the peak. It was not the peak. It was literally, it was part of a peak. It was like, it was starting. Like, if this is the peak, I was still down here. Like, I was down here. I didn't even know what was about to happen. Now, there's a whole bunch of different things happen, but a few of them that I remember is my emotions were all over the place. I literally cried, I laughed, I was happy, then I was upset, then my feelings was hurt. Like, I literally, and this was all in a matter of, I would experience maybe 5 emotions in a matter of like 12, 13 minutes. Like, it was crazy. I felt very like I wasn't in control of my emotions. Like, I would sit there and I would just start laughing like nonstop, hysterically. Like, I'm just laughing, like just laughing. Like, I just couldn't stop. And then I'll sit back and then I'm like, but I start bawling my eyes out. And then after I'm bawling my eyes out, I'm like, babe, come on, I want to play. Let's jump. Get up with me. Let's do Ring Around the Rosie. Like, I want to play. I want to play. Because I kept experiencing these emotions of just going up and then coming down and then staying down and going back up. I was just experiencing this whirlwind of emotions that I couldn't control and I didn't understand. Also, there were some things that I became aware of. I was like, oh, when you do this thing, it reminds me of this. That is why this, that. Like, I was able to just have these very eye-opening moments. I remember something that was so funny. TJ was like, I'm like, you keep your, like, I'm in the moment, like, looking at stuff. And she kept keeping her eyes closed. And I'm like, what do you see? And she's like, I see a whole bunch of colors. And she had this washcloth over her face. And I'm like, well, I want to see colors. I don't see colors when I close my eyes. And I'm like, oh, that's because you have a magic cloth. So I'm literally laying there with her trying to, like, get some of the cloth. I'm like, babe, give me some cloth. It's a washcloth, y'all. It is not big. So half of it is on my face. Half of it is on her face. And I'm like, I want to see the colors. I want to see the colors. I didn't see the colors this time. But that was so funny because it was definitely some hot shit. Like, it was, we were like sharing a washcloth to see some magical colors. But I was having all of these random philosophical ass thoughts and ideas. Like, I was just like closing my eyes and I'll hop up and be like, ooh, I know why the people have problems trusting society. It's like I would just come up with these random ass thoughts and feelings. I was like, I feel like I'm in a Spike Lee joint. Like, every second I'm like stopping and like turning to a camera and like, so what you guys don't understand is da 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 da. And then I'm back living my life. So I felt like that's how that was happening for me. I had a lot of moments of tears, had a lot of moments of joy. I wouldn't say that it was a bad trip. Some people, if that's what a bad trip is, then I guess. But I wouldn't necessarily say I had a bad trip. I just had to face a lot of things that I had ignored or pushed to the back burner for some time. And it was good. I just had a lot of different, like, range of emotions that I was not experiencing. I had to face some stuff. I had to deal with some stuff that I had just, like, I didn't think about at that level. I remember different other little experiences too that me and TJ was talking about. But two of my biggest takeaways from that experience was, one, embrace my emotions. Like, just embrace whatever emotions come up. Being that I was really like, oh my gosh, I want to be happy, and I'm like crying right now. And I'm like, but I don't understand why I'm crying. And TJ like, it's okay. Like, you clearly need to release something. Like, I mean, bawling. Like, I'll just go from laughing to like laying down, bawling my eyes out, just snot, like the ugly cry. And I'm just like, I don't even know why I'm crying. I want to be laughing. I want to go back to playing. And she's like, clearly you need to cry. Clearly you need to release something. It's okay. But laughter is also releasing. So there was parts of me that needed to be able to release through laughter, and there was parts of me that needed to be able to release through crying. So just embracing those and not trying to change them or hope that I was experiencing another emotion. So that was something to just learn. Embrace my emotions where I am and what's coming up at that moment. Don't try to run from them or try to experience something else, because what I need is in this moment of emotions. I don't need what's in another moment of emotion. So in this moment, if it is me that I'm feeling overwhelmed, feel overwhelmed to be like, and not be like, oh, I wish I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. I wish I was feeling at ease. No, I need to feel overwhelmed at this moment in order to gain what I need, and also in order to face the things that's causing me to feel overwhelmed. Also to probably pay attention to my body, because if I'm feeling overwhelmed, that is something's going on. Maybe I'm running myself ragged. Maybe I'm overcommitting to things. So pay attention to what's happening now and embrace my emotions was my biggest takeaway, one of the biggest takeaways from that. And I really feel like at moments I needed to release at these different times. Like, I needed to release through crying, because there are some things that I probably needed to cry about that I didn't cry about, or that I needed to end up being a certain way or presenting a certain way in a moment that I wasn't able to cry or grieve or to be sad. So in that moment, I was able to be or release in crying for the times I couldn't, in laughter for those times that I wish I could have had joy, or the times that I should have been laughing but I was taking myself too serious, or the times I could have been enjoying a moment by laughter and I wasn't because I had an attitude because something else happened, and all of these things. So those moments where I wasn't able or I didn't express the joy through laughter, I was able to express it in those moments for times that I had already missed my moment for. So embracing my emotions. And then the other takeaway for that particular experience was to loosen up, have fun, and be childlike. Loosen up, have fun, and be childlike. One thing that I did realize, and one awakening I had during that experience, was that I have a hard time tapping into my childlike self, because when I was a child, I wasn't really able to be a child fully. So when it comes to childlike experiences, childlike emotions, and childlike just feelings, it's hard for me to just go there like this with a snap of an eye, because when the moments I was supposed to experience these things, or the moments I was able to feel these emotions, I couldn't, because of life circumstances or because of the people around. I couldn't. I was basically robbed of my childlike innocence or childhood in that fun aspect, right? So as an adult, when it comes to tapping into those very fun-like activities or childlike activities, it's hard for me, or I struggle, because it is not something I am used to, not even when I was supposed to experience that. Hopefully that makes sense. So just to loosen up, that's something I took away. I learned that in that moment. I'm like, damn, I did not have a childhood. Like, I was exposed to shit fairly early. Like, there was a lot of things that happened. I had a very traumatic childhood, and there was a lot of things that robbed me of certain experiences and certain emotions. So I came to that realization in that moment. I'm like, damn, I did not have a childhood, which explains and makes sense of why I have such a hard time letting my hair down and being childlike in moments that calls for it. So I took that lesson away from that experience. Now, the next trip I'm going to talk about is it was TJ and I and two other people, and we were at my house and did the smoothies again. This time I did something different. I wrote the time of when I actually drank the smoothie on my arm, because during any altered state, I feel like you can lose time and you think 30 minutes is really 3 hours. Like, you just really don't know. Time is like really crazy. So I wrote it on my arm so I could keep track of, like, oh, okay, just how I've been, like, it kind of gives me some sort of ease. Now this feeling, I just thought that when I was like, oh, I also felt like when I had reached my peak, or when I was, not even reach my peak, I'm like, okay, well, I must be coming down. Like, I must be coming down. I was really just starting to go to the next level. Like, we went on a walk with Chase, so I remember seeing lights. I remember the cars making like faces, like the grills and stuff. I still don't look at cars the same anymore. Like, I look at them and I'm like, dang, that car look really mean. That car looks sad. You know, like stuff like that. The TV was on and a basketball game was on. I remember like it being super funny that I forgot which NBA team. It was the Philadelphia team. What is it, 76ers maybe? I don't know. And they had on old school jerseys and it said Fala. Like, it says Phila, like short for Philadelphia, but I'm like, why say Fala and not Philly? And I just found that so funny that it said Fala. Like, it was just funny in that moment. Like, I know you probably like, that's dumb, but it was super, super funny. I remember, I remember laughing at different things. I remember being nauseous, but not too much. I just remember having this one I had a very heart-shattering experience. Like, I don't want to go too much in details with that one, but I just remember something that I have always struggled with. It kind of came to reality, like, and I was like, dang. And I was very scared. Which I'll talk about because it's kind of one of my lessons, but I won't go too much in details. I also remember recording myself. I have a whole video. I don't feel comfortable sharing it just because I had so many experiences in that moment, and the reason I recorded, because I was like, I remember saying some really smart, dope ass shit that other time, so this time I'm gonna record myself so that, like, I know and I remember when I'm like out of this state. So I recorded myself. It's like a 30-minute video, and I was just talking about different awakenings I was having in that moment. This experience was very similar to that other experience, the second experience I talked about, but it wasn't so much of up and down of emotions. One of the biggest takeaways I had is there isn't always something to do or figure out. I operate out of masculine energy a lot. I talked about this in my podcast episode recently. But running a business, running a household, like all of this stuff, like I really have to get a lot of things done. And that requires the masculine to be at the forefront at times. And I also operate out of fire. My sun sign is Aries. So I'm like about getting things done. So at any moment I could feel like, oh, it's something I could be doing or something I could be figuring out. Like my brain is always trying to analyze something, make logical sense. Like it's really always trying to get to the bottom or root of things. Or I'm always trying to do something. So in that experience, I was able to realize that there isn't something to figure out and or do in every moment. And I kind of learned that simply I was just like, dang, I can't, like, I was trying to make sense of certain stuff and I just couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not meant for me to figure out. And I was like, that doesn't feel right with me. I mean, it doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't feel right. Like, I feel like I need to figure it out. And I'm like, well, why do I feel like I need to figure it out? Because I feel like everything is, like, I need to figure something out. Or in moments that I wasn't, like, doing anything, I was trying to figure out why I wasn't doing things. Like, I was psyching myself out about figuring things out and doing them. And the whole, like, full circle moment was, release it. Just be. You don't have to figure out or you don't have to do in every moment. Just relax and release it. And the next biggest thing I had from this experience was death is inevitable for everyone. I lost my parents at a very young age. My mom passed when I was 8. and my father passed when I was 17. So death has been one of those things that I won't say, I wouldn't necessarily say I struggle with, but it is one of those things that is I'm familiar with. Let me say that. I'm familiar with them, but it is one of the only things that I fear when it comes to relationships that are close to me, because I lost two of the most important people to me to death. So a lot of things that I do and say in relationships is subconsciously trying to prevent the death. It will get deep. It gets very, very deep. So I won't get too deep into it, but there are things that when I am trying to control certain things or certain experiences, it is ultimately driven by the fear of death that can come from it, you know? So I kind of had to face that in that trip, which was very like, I could have like threw up my entire soul existence, because it was like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't think of it like this. So, yeah. It's like death is inevitable for everyone. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, everyone around me is going to pass at some time. Like, regardless what I do. And I am not in control of any of those moments. And I cannot prevent anyone from dying. And that was one of the hardest things for me to, like, accept, because growing up, I felt like if this would have happened, or if I was here, this, that, then maybe my mom wouldn't have passed. Or if this didn't happen, or if I could have been here, maybe my dad wouldn't have passed. So growing up with that guilt and feeling as if I could have prevented those things, makes me feel like I can prevent them from it happening for other people. Hopefully that makes sense. So that was one of my awakenings. I'm going to share some bonus ones just overall with like all of the Shroom experiences. I just feel like all of these trips have caused me in some way to really like to really reevaluate myself, my patterns, and some of my trauma. And it also caused me to really face myself and deal with some shit, even the shit that I didn't even think I needed to deal with. Okay? And it just really, it was really, really interesting. I wouldn't consider any of my trips bad trips. I would not consider them necessarily good trips. I just would say they are what they are. Like, I don't really try to get wrapped up in those words. It is very healing. It is therapeutic. I had breakthroughs in the course of 3-4 hours that I haven't had in 3-4 years of therapy. Hello, I still go to therapy, by the way. So I'm not saying that for any other reason but to just state that, okay? So it is mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. Some of my bonus takeaways from all of my experiences was, one, what you focus on expands. And I kind of talked about that in the second experience because I was talking about me feeling like I was nauseous and feeling like I had to throw up. By the way, I did not throw up in any of my experiences. I sound very nasally, but that was it. But that's known because shrooms like will drain your mucous membranes and stuff, so you could just feel liquid just pouring from different places, if that makes sense. But what you focus on expands. So I learned that in the moment and then also outside of those moments, because that's the law of attraction in itself. But in those moments, I really realized that, like, when I was focusing on throwing up, I really felt it expanding in me that I had to really throw up. When I focused on if I focused on an emotion, that is what expanded, versus just going with the flow. Whatever I like tried to hold on to and focus on, that was what was kind of gonna expand, versus me just releasing and just going with whatever comes up every moment. And the next bonus one lesson that I learned overall was everyone's journey is unique. Everyone's journey is unique. Not only in like everyone's shroom journey will be unique, everyone's life journey will be unique, but I found myself in moments, each moment trying to experience what the other person was experiencing. For example, like TJ was experiencing those colors, and I'm like, ooh, I want to see the colors too. It wasn't meant for me to see the colors. What was meant for me to do was fucking laugh and cry so I can get whatever healing I needed in that moment. The next experience, I would remember TJ and the other people was like, oh, I can hear my heartbeat. All you got to do is listen to your palm or listen to this. Or they were giving me different tips and tricks. And I'm like, I just can't hear my heartbeat. Everybody can hear their heartbeat. And I was frustrated that I couldn't do, or my journey wasn't like theirs. And I was like, but I can hear my blood. And everybody's like, oh, that's cool. Nobody cared about wanting to hear their blood flowing through their body. They were like, well, I hear my heartbeat, so this is what I'm focusing on. I don't really care what you got going on in your journey. I was the one trying to figure out, like, how can I experience what y'all experiencing too, rather than just being focused on my own journey and allowing everybody else's journey to be their own. So that also applies to everyday life, like not worrying about what other people are doing or looking at other people's life. Just truly being in your own lane and focusing on that and maximizing what you have and enjoying what you have, and not necessarily worried about other people and what they have and what they got going on. Okay, y'all, I know this is a different video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Comment below. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe. If you have any video ideas or any other topics or any other story times y'all want me to do, if y'all have some story times, I'm willing to do it. I love to tell a story because I'm trying to do these different type of YouTube videos and not only like sit down teaching videos. So y'all let me know what else y'all want to hear from me. And until we meet again, I love you. Bye.